Hello, and welcome back to another edition of A Broken, Sad Old Man Who's Pretending to Know Something About Computer Technology. Um, I discovered something really fun, which happens when you reach a certain age. You just start hurting for no reason whatsoever. I, right now, have this thing with my knee. I didn't injure my knee, I didn't trip on anything, but it just suddenly hurts a lot. I can't bend it, I can't do anything with it. I have to wear a compression sleeve, which normally I would wear just to the gym when I try desperately to lift weights and not look like a sad, decrepit human being. But now I have to wear it out everywhere, and it's still warm enough that you can wear shorts here. So, in a way, I kind of look like a bad dude. Like usually a hoodie and shorts. I've got knee sleeves on. People probably look at me and, well, they wouldn't look at me and think that um, I'm an athlete or anything, but they might look at me and say, "Oh, that guy came from the gym. He's really trying hard." When in actual fact, I am just trying to take one step after the other without pooping myself. But I digress. We're coming together today to just give you a bit of a taste of a couple of new games that came out recently, and how the 2023 Zephyrus G14 with the RTX 4080 handles them. Um, One of them is The Outer Worlds 2, and the other one is my guilty pleasure that I spend hours on whenever I get a chance, which is Powerwash Simulator 2. The sequel came out. And for both of these games, what I'll do is I'm just going to go over my settings, show you some different options. I don't do it as much with Powerwash Simulator 2, but with Outer Worlds 2, I'll show you how it performs with a few different settings in place. And then I'll just settle on the one that works best for me, which gives a good balance between quality and performance. Uh, it's just, again, to give you an idea of what this card is capable of in 2023, 2025. And spoiler alert, still pretty freaking capable. Again, still haven't bitten the bullet to permanently run the 170-watt VBIOS from the HP. I probably will be doing that at some point. Um, by saying that on camera, I am fully acknowledging that I probably void my warranty, but my SlimQ 330-watt adapter is arriving. I think it's on Tuesday, so in a few days. And once that comes, I'll feel a bit more comfortable about running this 4080 to the ragged edge. So with that, we're going to jump into Outer Worlds 2. So right off the bat, this game does this wonderful thing where it compiles shaders when you first load in. I know some games do that. I haven't really noticed that recently. Um, I never really got into the first one. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I just, it was fine. It wasn't anything overwhelming for me. But this one came out and I thought, I'll give it another shot. It's an interesting premise, at least. It looks really good. Um, so here we are in game and just moving around a bit, show you that frame rate. Looks pretty brutal, but I have everything jacked up. So 1600p, frame generation set to quality, or a DLSS set to quality. I have hardware ray tracing on, and everything is at the absolute highest settings possible. So this is, aside from the frame gen, obviously the highest you can get in terms of graphic quality and settings. And as you can see, it does have an impact on the frame rate, getting around the low 50s. It sometimes goes up to the high 50s, tickles the undercarriage of 60 sometimes. But again, as you can see, that the wattage of the 4080 never really jumps up to anything significant. It very rarely goes above 100. So even with everything set to the maximum, the wattage is kind of kept right at that bare bone minimum. Not even with um, dynamic boost working. So I'm going to turn off the hardware ray tracing and just keep everything else as is. So hardware ray tracing is off. and it doesn't have a massive impact. Now we're at like the low 60s, so giving us about 6 to 8 extra FPS. Um, I'm going to be honest with you. I'd never really noticed much of a difference with ray tracing. The only game I do notice it on is Cyberpunk, but they've optimized that engine so much that you don't really need hardware ray tracing turned on to get incredible visuals. This game is kind of similar. Like there's a few fewer reflections from the sun, um, but it's still, I mean, the graphic fidelity is pretty much the same. Um, Still kind of chugging along, just going over 100 watts. Let's make a couple of adjustments, and this is usually with the DLSS. So instead of quality, we'll go to balanced, and we'll see if that has much of an impact. Spoiler alert, it will a little bit, but not that much. So now again, mid 60s, high 60s. We're getting up there, and I know a lot of people will play a AAA first person game at 60 FPS and say that that's perfect. I want more. And it's not because I'm some, frame rate hooker trying to get as many as possible. I just like how smooth the higher frame rate is. So here's where we're going to turn the screen effects down to high instead of very high, and shadows. So this was the setting that defaulted when I first installed this game. And that has a pretty significant impact. Well, I mean, yeah, we're up there in the high 70s. Um, this is getting towards the point. Like I usually like a frame rate around the 80s to 90s to feel buttery smooth when I play. I like the smooth scrolling of a higher frame rate, and in the high 70s, getting close. But I would love a stable 80 to 90. And that's where we're going to make one more adjustment here. And we're just going to turn this down to performance. And again, I don't notice a huge visual difference. You might. This might make your eyeballs bleed. Totally up to the individual. But now we're in the 80s. We're in the low to mid 80s, goes up to the high 80s, sometimes 90s. This is where I like to play. And let's just ignore this weird bug. I don't know where Valerie is jumping. Valerie will jump and then just teleport back. And dude just hopped over that for no reason whatsoever. So, anyways, these are the ideal settings to get a decent frame rate while playing this game. Turn it down to ultra performance, and we'll get an extra few FPS. It'll probably be, yeah, there we go. We're gonna get in the 90s to the hundreds. I I don't notice a huge visual difference, but I would prefer just going back to performance and getting in the 90s versus in the hundreds with ultra performance, where you start seeing some jaggies. You start seeing a little bit of pixelation and weirdness. Um, but otherwise, a brand new AAA game. I don't know if the engine is particularly, if it's been optimized like Battlefield 6, or if it's just not as demanding an engine, but it runs beautifully. Even with everything maxed out, um, you're getting 60 playable frames. I just like to have more frames at the expense of a little bit of visual fidelity, but I don't notice a massive difference. So here you go. It is a beautiful game. I will probably try to get into the story. I just am not a huge fan of the gun aesthetic, and I know that sounds really weird, but it's a very kind of like World War One kind of weapon aesthetic they got going, and clothing aesthetic, and I don't know. I never been a fan of that. World War Two for sure, which I guess this is kind of like the Luger, but I don't know. Not really my style. At any rate, there you go. That's Outer Worlds 2. Now, as I mentioned before, Powerwash Simulator 2, the Powerwash game, the original Powerwash game, I played that thing to death. As an old man, it gave this sense of tangible reward for your hard work. I could just play it for hours and just get lost in trying to get that last speck of dirt, and I love this game. And number two is basically more of the same, just with some enhancements. And that's the way you do it. You take the best and you make it even better. And they've done this, and I can't get enough of this game. Um, I know it sounds ridiculous, but whatever. When you get my age, you're gonna love it too. So just going over to video, forgive me in advance here. I'm going to mess around with these settings because it seems weird to me, but then I'm just going to make it even more weird. So the screen's going to go weird for a second. It's going to kind of, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. So don't do what I do here. But aside from that, jacking everything up to the maximum. And what is this? Oh no, I want this to be, yeah, far. Everything else is on high, and we're gonna do a little power washing, and you can see the GPU is not really working very hard on this game. It's not a very demanding visual game. Barely hitting 100 watts at times. Frame rates well into the 120s to 150s. I'm just gonna fix this video here. Why does this game do this? I don't understand why it does this with the video. So let's just do borderless window, and that'll keep it normal again. Resolution still 1080p, but I can't go any higher for some reason. I'm gonna keep everything else high, and again, I mean, my goodness, now I'm getting the wattage above 100, 105, but just look at that. I mean, and aside from that, how satisfying does this look? Look at that. Just power washing away, cleaning up, being useful to my friends and family like a man ought to be, you know? Of course, I'm not actually being useful. I'm sitting on my computer playing a video game, but who are we to judge, right? You know, if you live in a glass house, don't toss stones. That's the saying, right? Oh, God, I'm old. So, much like most men's marriages ought to be, this one was short and sweet. Just wanted to show you a couple of newer games and how they performed. If there are games that you want to see, like if you're maybe finding this as a deal and you want to take advantage of it, jump all over it, but you want to make sure that it's going to play your favorite game, just reach out to me and ask for a game. If it is something that I have or can get, I will absolutely put out a video showing performance on it as well as the best settings. If it's a game that costs like $80 and I'm pretty positive I am never going to play it outside of making a video, I might skip it. But if I get a lot of requests for a game, I will absolutely spend the money and get the game. And I'll do more playtime than I did with these two. This was just sort of a little peek under the curtains to see what settings are ideal for these two games. But I do have a lot of games that I could play that I never will because my children drain me of the will to live in this world. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear that, but I don't care because they are terrible human beings. All right. On that note, I'm going to say goodbye for this one. Again, ask any questions you have, make any comments. I'm happy to answer anything you've got for me. And with that out of the way, have a great day. And my next video, I will show you some of the must-have upgrades for the 2023 Zephyrus G14 RTX 4080. I mean, they apply to any of the GPU models, but I just have the 4080 and whatever. So look forward to that as soon as I find the time to do it, when I don't have to do everything else for everyone around this house. Oh God, I'm tweaking out now.